Welcome, Sens Talk. Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon Planton. I am your host. Sens Hockey is finally back as the rookie tournament took place this weekend, and all things considered, it went pretty well for your Ottawa Senators and their prospects. Obviously, in this video, I'm going to take a look at what happened in those two games, and more importantly, take a look at some of the players that really stuck out to me and some of the players that did not. So with that, let's get into it. Ottawa, they finished the tournament 1-0-1, so they didn't lose a game in regulation. Again, the game results don't really matter, to be honest, because it is a rookie tournament after all, but you still want to win, obviously, right? We're watching. They want to win, obviously. They're competitive athletes, and ultimately, who doesn't want to win, right? So the first game, Ottawa took down Toronto. That's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. 4-3. Jakubchuk, holy cow, I almost puked a few times in that game. Look at your screen. He had a beautiful bomb to open up the scoring, and then also scored a nifty goal, sent the goalie swimming there to make it 4-2. Ultimately, Ottawa won that game 4-3 against Toronto. Jackson Parsons, the CHL goalie of the year last year, breakout candidate in this camp, no doubt about that, especially after a great rookie tournament. In that game, he won the game for the Ottawa Senators, frankly, single-handedly, stopping 27 of 30, but multiple, look at your screen right now, were stops that probably should have went in. For a young goaltender who is coming out of the CHL to do that against heightened competition, very, very impressive. My breakout player of the tournament, no doubt about that, and someone to keep an eye on going into this year for sure. Now, Stephen Holiday, another guy to keep an eye on, of course, as we enter the main phase of camp now, as the preseason is under a week away, is another player that played fantastic in this win over Toronto. 2 points in this one, and a guy that dominated all weekend. I'm excited to see how he does in the preseason. I would expect him to start in Belleville, but do not kid yourself. He will absolutely get some minutes here in Ottawa this year. And then next year, I think, is when he really makes that next step and plays potentially on the third line, but I won't get ahead of myself. We'll save that for next year's conversation. But Stephen Halliday, absolutely a dark horse to make the team out of camp this year, and definitely a guy that will be up at some point with your Ottawa Senators. Now, speaking of a guy that could potentially fit that bill, Tyler Boucher, as Boucher scored a power play goal in this one. A nice shot through a screen. He really needed that one. I thought Boucher, we'll talk about this later, looked pretty good this weekend, but that was a nice goal there to make it 3-2. So yeah, big win there in game number 1 for Ottawa over Toronto. And then last night in game number 2 against the Winnipeg Jets, Ottawa unfortunately fell to the Jets 3-2 in overtime. It was a very exciting game, to be honest with you. Ottawa, frankly, dominated. I think the Jets didn't even have 25 shots. Ottawa nearly had 40, so they probably should have won the game. But again, it is a rookie tournament, and not everything that should happen does happen, right? So Ottawa did lose the game 3-2. However, there are many positives to take away. Firstly, the goaltending this weekend, as we'll talk about in a minute, was fantastic. Vladimir Nikitin was especially fantastic there in the first half of this game, stopping all 10 shots he faced, including a couple of brilliant stops in close, as you just saw on your screen. And then Lucas Beckman stepped in, and look, early on, the Jets were really swarming on him. They had a power play as well, got a couple past him. Can't really blame him, especially on that first one where, unfortunately, Adanovsky turned it over. Wallenius, what's he supposed to do there on the 2-on-1? And they opened up Beckman's 5-hole to slip it through, right? But again, it is a rookie tournament. You're supposed to work out these little things, right? That goes for the defensemen, for the forwards, and for the goaltending. But after that early, rough start, so to speak, for Beckman, he really settled in, made a couple big stops on some big shots, and more importantly, in tight. As I mentioned in my tournament preview with Sens prospects, I mentioned how Beckman is very versatile in his net, especially for a smaller goaltender. He's very aggressive, and you saw that on full display last night against the Winnipeg Jets. So, bit of a rocky start for him, but he really settled in and forced this game into overtime at the very least for Ottawa. So there's some promise there for sure for a player, that being Beckman, who I view as potentially the steal of the draft for at least the Ottawa Senators. And then Nikitin as well, 10 for 10, looked calm and steady, a bit of a bigger goaltender as well, but uses his size very well. Now, in that game, Halliday absolutely dominated. Whenever he was out there, he hit the post twice. There was multiple shifts where him and Xavier Bourgault were really, really doing well and cycling that puck like crazy. Last night as well, Jamison Reese did pretty well. Probably should have been awarded the game-winning goal in the third. Ottawa probably should have won the game, to be honest, but I'm not going to rage about it. It is the rookie tournament. As you just saw on your screen there, though, the puck went in. He was pushed into the net. Normally, that would, count as a goal, but it is the rookie tournament and rookie mistakes happen, and this, by the officials, frankly, it should have been reviewed. But either way, Reese had a very, very good tournament, and we'll talk about that in a second. Peterson, Bourgault, Holiday, and Reese really showed out there in that second game, in my opinion. And I'll just leave it at that because I have some other players that did play well in that game in game number 1, which I want to save and talk about in a couple minutes here specifically. But before I get to that, I want to say thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. Sens Talk is proudly presented by Dylan Puckniak, Ottawa's exclusive realtor, with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment. Providing a bilingual real estate service that serves the Ottawa-Gatineau community, Dylan Puckniak is also specialized in supporting professional athletes that come and go in our city, providing a service that takes care of the people at the highest level. For realtor experience puts you and your needs first, visit dylanpuckniak.kw.com. That is dylanpuckniak.kw.com to find out more today. Again, thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. So let's take a look at some of my standout players, some players that caught my eye, and some players that I wouldn't say disappointed me, I just expected a bit more from. So the standout players, goes without saying, Carter Yakimchuk, Stephen Holiday, they were dominant throughout the weekend. Holiday played both games, Yak just the one. He did not play in game number 2. But in that one game, it was very clear that Yak was a man amongst boys, right? This guy was absolutely dominating, as he should. Top 10 pick from last year, right? This is a guy, or 2 years ago, this is a guy that absolutely should be dominating and making goalies go for a swim on a nightly basis against this type of competition. Again, nothing against the competition. Yakimchuk is just that elite of a player, especially as a play driver. But on the defensive side of things, Yakimchuk, I never really understood the argument about him being a bad skater. Obviously, Ottawa has some very, very good skating development coaches like Shelly Kettles, for example. But yeah, regardless, I never really understood the hate for his skating. His skating is what causes a lot of his offensive breakouts, in my opinion. So that, again, with Shelly Kettles, never worried. But the defensive side of his game, very, very much more improved. Sure, there was a breakdown in game number 1 that he was bailed out by Jackson Parsons, but overall, I thought he was much more defensively positioned. Again, not out of position there before the puck was even there, if that makes sense, right? So he knew where he had to be. That's a good sign. I'm excited to see how that continues going into camp. And then Stephen Holiday, I already said it, I'll say it again. Guy was driving the play every single night there in that top 6 on that first line. And this is a guy that absolutely, again, he will push for an NHL spot. I just don't see him on the 4th line. Lars Eller's there for a reason. I don't see a spot for him in the top 9. He needs to be in that top 9 to really flourish. In my opinion, he's an offensive guy. Let him continue to dominate there in Belleville. He will get minutes in Ottawa, though. This weekend showed why. He's such a fantastic play driver. You can't stop him, frankly. So very excited to see what he continues to do. Xavier Bourgault had a very, very good tournament. Former first-round pick. We acquired him in that Yarventi trade of the Edmonton Oilers, right, a few years back. So Bourgault is a guy that gets a lot of praise from teammates. Dave Bell said he's a guy that could compete for a spot and is NHL ready, so to speak, and is a hell of a competitor. So a lot of praise around this guy, and I can see why. He was very, very good there in the tournament. Had a great setup pass yesterday against the Jets that sent Daou and Peterson on the 2-on-1 for the goal for Oscar, and I was really impressed with him. Thomas Hamara is another guy who played both games and looked fantastic. He was the quarterback for Ottawa on the blue line, and it's very easy to see why Hamara is a guy that is seen as this puck mover, power play 1 type, right? He is a very smooth skater, distributes the puck very, very well, and he plays and meshes well amongst his peers. He's very, very good at moving that puck and getting other guys open, really. So he does a good job at opening up the lanes and whatnot, and again, he is a natural playmaking guy. So Hamara is a great puck mover, and that was on full display. And that competition between him, Torre, of course, Eliasson, Wellenius, there's other names I'm not mentioning, like Adanovsky and whatnot. Of course, Yakimchuk. There's so many talented defensemen down there in Belleville, not even including Lassie Thompson and many, many others. There's a lot of very, very good talented blue liners there in Belleville and in this organization. So that is very, very good news. That is a good problem to have. Now, Jamison Reese was fantastic all tournament along the boards and really using that board space to continue to facilitate the cycle. Again, this is an overager. He's 25 years old, give or take. This is a guy that's going to be in Belleville. I don't know if we'll see him in Ottawa, but again, he did his job very, very well and deserved a shout out as one of the standouts because, again, he's one of the key playmakers consistently in that top 6 and deserved some praise. Now, speaking of praise, the goaltenders deserve some praise, no doubt about that. Beckman, Nikitin, and Parsons all had magical moments, and frankly, they put on a show. I've already spoken about it in the game recaps at the beginning of this video, but I will say it again here. Ottawa has some very, very good goaltending prospects. And frankly, I would argue it's the strongest part of their prospect pipeline right now. You got 3 goalies here, not including a couple others in the system, that are just dominating. And you saw glimpses of starter potential from all 3 in this tournament. And again, it's just the rookie tournament. It's not a full season, so take everything with a grain of salt. But again, you could just see the tools that all 3 of these goalies have that can make them very, very successful. So I'm very excited, and I'm much higher on all 3 than I was going into this camp when I was already pretty high on them. So very, very excited to see how well they did. Now, some players that caught my eye, Tyler Boucher had that power play goal, but I really liked the physicality, he brought. He wasn't afraid to throw around the body. He was flying on the forecheck, and that's what you want from a guy like Tyler Boucher. Not going to be in your top 6, maybe a bottom 6 guy, though, and he will push for an NHL spot this year for sure. Will he make it? I'm not sure, but he will push for sure, and he needed a big rookie camp to kind of get some momentum going into the main camp, so I'm very happy to see that for Boucher. He's a friend of the show. I have a lot of respect for him. He can never stay healthy. I really hope he does, because he's a talented hockey player, and he deserves to show what he can do. So, a great rookie tournament for him. Oscar Peterson, again, in that top 6 primarily, he will push for an NHL spot as well. There's just not a lot of space for these guys to make it, so I expect him to make it in Belleville instead of Ottawa as well. But he is 23 years old, so this is a guy to keep an eye on consistently. Had a goal last night against the Jets, of course, and it's just quick like the wind, I just love how fast he is, and he's a smart player as well. Again, single-handedly started that play with Daou and Bourgault to open up the scoring against the Jets. So very impressed with him. Torre, this is a guy that just fired me up against the Leafs primarily. I think overall, again, he was fine. I think he had some really good glimpses, and this is a guy that, wasn't expected to play really much in the AHL last year, play a lot more than people expected, and there's reason for that. He held his own. He's a fantastic defender, at least at the AHL level, and I'm excited to see how he continues to develop. He bounced between the ECHL and AHL last year. This year, I expect him to fully be in the AHL. This is a young prospect. He's very, very tenacious. I loved what he did against the Leafs on game number 1, where he basically took on the entire bench. He's like, who wants me? Like his captain, I guess, Brady Tkachuk, right? Like the Sens captain. Who wants me? Who wants me? That's what Torre was doing, was basically telling the whole bench to come at him. And, being against the Leafs, A+, right? And he wore a do-rag too. I think that's the first time we've seen a do-rag in an NHL game, so that's awesome as well. Who doesn't love history, right? So for Toure, this is a guy that I don't think he'll push for an NHL spot this year, but in a couple years, who knows? Every single year he's gotten better, and I don't see why that would stop. Yorian Donovan is another great example of that, where every single year he seems to improve. This tournament, he was very, very good. Scored the late tying goal in the second period against the Jets. They even it up at 2. And overall, sure, the offensive game was there. He's not really known as that. He's known as a two-way guy, and he saw that on full display this weekend, just in the right place at the right time. Never was out of position, was probably the only defenseman this weekend that was always in the right spot at the right time. So Donovan's a guy that will definitely be in the top 4 in Belleville, in my opinion, and we saw why this weekend. Now, Philip Daou is a guy that I've had a lot of praise for the last few years. Like Tyler Boucher, he's dealt with a lot of injuries, and this is very, very unfortunate. However, he signed an AHL contract. He's sticking in the organization, and I'm glad that is the case. This weekend, you saw exactly what Daou is capable of. Sure, he's been to a few rookie camps. He absolutely should dominate. However, this is still a high-level competition, right? So no one's expected to dominate unless you're a top 10 pick, like a Jakubchuk, for example, right? And Daou was not that. He was drafted like in the 5th or 6th round a few years back. So this is a guy that I think he's at least capable of dominating. And he did. He drove the play. He was very, very good there in the top 9. And this is a guy that I think for Belleville is a role player that you need. And he's still young. He could still potentially develop into something. But this is a player that if he could just stay healthy, kind of like Boucher, I think you'll see a very, not shocking year, but a better year than people are expecting, because this is a very, very talented hockey player that's not, I don't want to say been derailed, but injuries have not been his friend. Now, a few players I just want to wrap up with that weren't horrible, but I expected a bit more from, or wanted to see a bit more from. I'll start off with Blake Vanek. Vanek, he is coming out of high school. He's literally a kid, right? So, I wasn't expecting him to dominate. He had a good shot there against the Leafs early on. He has an NHL shot. He's got that NHL size. He definitely needs some more development, though. Wasn't the most noticeable. However, he was in that bottom six primarily, even on the fourth line for game one. So wasn't exactly put in the best position either. But this was definitely a good experience for him to take into his next phase of his career here as he continues to develop, play against much better competition. Again, he's got the tools to be a great player, so I'm not too worried about that. Matthew Andonovski is another player where, again, he was good at in some glimpses. I mean, Parsons made an incredible stop, but he cleared it off the goal line to keep that puck out. So that was a great play. But then in game number 2, he got stripped off the puck way deep in the neutral zone, basically in the offensive zone. No one back. Wallenius had no chance there. That was the first one on Beckman I mentioned previously. So, again, for a guy like Andonovski, who is, I wouldn't call him a two-way, but is a guy that he's just a very solid defenseman, all right? I was a little shocked that happened, but again, that's what the rookie tournament is for. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be starting on the blue line for Belleville in that, top 3 pairs. Where? Who knows? We'll see how that battle goes in Belleville camp, but this is a prospect that deserves more attention, and I think he will get more attention as he continues to develop and flourish here in the Sens organization. Gabriel Eliasson's the last player I want to mention who, he's a hawking defenseman. He's an absolute menace, and he's a bit too much of a menace. He took too many penalties again this tournament. That's kind of his issue, the discipline. And you want to find that fine line between the aggression, the tenacity, and the discipline, right? And that's what these tournaments are for. He's still young. He will figure it out. But it was on full display that, again, he throws around that body. He's not afraid to fight anyone and everyone. And for that, we love him. But also we need him to kind of, I wouldn't say tone it down, but just do it in a way where you're not going to the box every single time, because we need you out there. Otherwise, that's not great, right? So with that, let me know who you liked in this tournament, who caught your eye, who didn't do as well as you thought as well, in the comment section down below. And with that, I'll see you later this week to kind of take a good, deep look into the NHL training camp and the preseason. Holy cow, we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We're finally back for your Ottawa Senators. So with that, thank you all for watching. I will see you all very, very soon. Go Sens, go.